Hello, and welcome to this very special episode of The Sausage Factory, in which we are celebrating 35 years of Friday the 13th, Part 3. I'm your moderator, Pizzal. Joining me tonight, I have got Raiho Magnifico. How are you, Raiho?
Doing pretty good. I want to thank everybody for sticking it out for the last little while. I'm following a few people in the chat here, and we've got a pretty lively chat going. So just want to thank everybody for sticking it out.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Google Plus is flawless. It is perfect. There's never been a problem with it in its history. And we've just been jerking you guys around for the past 40 minutes. That's all. So
we're in here getting the skinny on the new movie from Peter.
Yeah, we're in here getting the skinny on the new movie. And breaking news, it is found footage. So
and it is in the snow. Everything you dreamed.
Yeah, there we go. I think. Hold on, just 1 second. Sean, are you there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We are live, and you have just joined us, and the connection looks pretty good. So
just don't move.
Stay where you are. Don't
no
move.
sudden movements. Yeah.
Just stay exactly where you are for the next hour and a half.
Because if you sneeze, we'll lose you.
Yeah.
Run down to
Starbucks. So yeah, look, we're doing the intro, so I'll continue along with the intros. Also joining me tonight is Rambo Raff. How's it going, Rambo?
Doing well. Thanks for having me for really solid sequel. Definitely interested to see what's going on with this new documentary that we'll be hearing about. Saw the trailer, looked really interesting.
Also with me tonight is Cameron. How are you, Cameron?
Doing good. You know, when I was a kid, people used to say if you constantly masturbate, you go blind. But I think these Friday the 13th Part 3 3D glasses are going to make me blind by the end of this podcast. So,
it might also be that.
I'm already almost there. I've only been like a minute. I'm already there. Also with me tonight's Jay the Stingray. How's it going, Stingray?
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
What are we drinking tonight, Stingray?
This is some good old-fashioned dark magic.
Dark magic. What's that?
Are you Harry Potter?
Very, very black coffee.
Coffee with cocaine.
That's some black magic right there.
One can only hope.
Also with me tonight's the Professor, B-Movie Mike. What's going on, Mike?
Hi, what's going on, guys? Man, it's great to be here. I've been looking forward to this one. Like I said before the show, it's the first one I saw in the theater. Nostalgia is strong with this one. For that reason, it's one of my favorites, and I can't wait to watch it with you guys. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. And joining us tonight, we have two very special guests making his 8th, 9th, 10th appearance on the show. Basically, the 5th member of the Sausage Factory, the author of this amazing book, Crystal Lake Memories, The Complete History of Friday the 13th. I dropped this on my foot the other day. You will be getting the medical bill. Mr. Peter Bracke, how you doing, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. I know these are my 3D glasses, right? No, it's always a pleasure to be here, guys. Thank you so much.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you and for you to impart your knowledge, your vast knowledge of Friday the 13th with us and everyone watching. So thank you, sir.
Well, it's a very dubious system. Oh, wait, did I mute for a second? Sorry.
And joining us tonight as well, the writer-producer of the upcoming Friday the 13th Part 3 documentary, Sean Richards. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm pretty good, guys. How you doing?
Doing great. Got a lot of questions for you and Peter, but I want to let everybody out there watching know that if you have any questions for Sean or Peter or for any of us, we'll try and do, if we have time, a little Q&A session at the end of the show. Tweet those questions to us at TSF Nation or leave them in the comment section of the video. If you want to watch and discuss Friday the 13th Part 3 with us in real time, we'll give you guys a few minutes to set up your copy of the film. We all have our copy of the movie right at the very beginning at 0.00. So we'll try and be all synced up together. Whatever version you're watching, be it the VHS, the Laserdisc, the DVD, the Blu-ray. I don't think there was a beta. I think Betamax was
There was a
gone
beta.
at this point.
There was a beta. Yeah.
There was.
It was a
Okay.
pan and scan. That was the old, very first.
Yeah. That's what I saw. The first time I saw it was on Betamax.
Really?
Wow.
I think I was
Awesome.
like 7.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Well, we'll let everybody get your copy synced up so we can all watch it and enjoy the movie together in real time. But first and foremost, Sean, about the documentary, the first question that comes to mind, why Friday the 13th Part 3?
Well, that's a great question there. Actually, Friday the 13th Part 3 came up as the documentary idea because it started when I heard that Richard passed away suddenly in, what was it, 2013? Yeah. How fortuitous, right? The number 13, the year 13, that's pretty crazy in itself. But it was also a very young life. And I had met Richard. It's been about right around 11 years ago, the first time I met him, and I met him 2 more times after that, all in the year 2006. And, it was very surprising. It was very surprising to me to hear that. And so I thought, and then on top of that, I had also been to the set previously, and then I had also heard about what happened there. So I felt very fortunate to have visited that set, and just prior to its demise. So that was the origin of the idea to do this documentary, was to share with what I have with the fans that can no longer visit the set the way it was, and dedicate it to Richard, because he was a great guy with a big heart, and just very, very blessed to have met him and hung out with him on various occasions, and likewise to visit the set. So that was where it all started from.
Okay, cool. So did it start out as sort of a tribute to Richard Brooker, and then it blossomed into more of a making of the entire film?
Yeah. The Memoriam documentary title was something very early on, because the idea for it was to share memories of people that have worked with Richard or knew Richard, for the fans, for people that may have always wanted to meet him and don't have the opportunity to. So that was the start of it. And then we had met Paul Bracke through a mutual friend, and told him about the idea. And we had wrote a script for it, and we went through and mentioned it to Paul, and he was open to it, and very accommodating, very great guy to work with, and very professional. He had done a lot of voiceover work in his film career as well. So basically, he, worked with us on that, developed that, and then through that, it was like a domino effect for a lot of the people that we were able to mention this to, and bring aboard for the project to share about the making of the film, to share about memories working with Richard, to share about Richard on a personal level. And so it just kind of became, actually, it's interesting that it's part 3, because the documentary has become, just by the evolution of time, a threefold. Basically, there's 3 pillars to the doc. You got the Richard portion of it, you got the making of and the production stories behind it, and then you have the evolution of the mask and how that came to be and the stories behind that. So, and then there's a bunch of other little fun stuff too, that just, people that have shared, and things that have come out of the woodwork that I think will be very surprising and fun for the viewers, definitely.
Cool.
And some new stuff as well, to really give it its own, quality about it, its own feel. And then, of course, on another level, the three pillars behind it too, as far as the look and what we were going for, was, for me as a kid watching these films, they were just some of the most beautiful settings I'd ever seen on any movie. The forestry, the lakes, everything about it was just really beautiful. And then you have death.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this irony, this gorgeous fun times, this, that, and dark falls, and then death. So what we wanted to do in keeping with this was to keep those elements intact, kind of the woodsy naturalistic feel for the interviews. And then another point or a pillar of the movies was the iconic music, which I worked on getting from Sony for some time, and was able to do that. So the iconic Manfredini score, and then the mask, of course. Those three things right there are big supporters, or big, big foundation for part 3. So
Right.
wanted to definitely include those with this documentary, of course. And so we did that as well. So it's crazy threes. Threes are everywhere with this.
There you go. There you go. Well, when can we? I know you're in the process of editing the film right now. Is there a release date yet, or do you have an estimated when you think that it'll be available?
Well, we've hit some bumps in post-production that were unprecedented, so we're not, we're in a good place right now, and feeling really good about this with where it's at, and everything's lined up to where it needs to be to get this done. There was just things that come up, as with any project, that are unforeseen. Especially, this is my first endeavor, so it's tough goings when you're, and I'm sure Peter can attest to that as well. When you're doing your first thing and you're trying to get it together, and I'm not a big movie company. I'm just me, but there's a lot of things you learn about the process. So, to a short answer, we don't have one set, but we are going to announce it. It will be this year.
Okay.
With any luck, it'll be in the first half of the year. We will be announcing that on the project page. It's going to be blown up out there. And I don't know if you saw the teaser for it, but we're going to do our due diligence in announcing this, and everybody's going to know well beforehand. So it definitely 2017. It's kind of weird that it turned out this way, because the bumps and delays have pushed it to the 35th anniversary year. That was not the anticipated. That was not planned whatsoever. This was supposed to be out last year, and then we hit some bumps and whatnot. So I don't know. Maybe Richard is otherworldly involved in making it so. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. How close were you with Richard Brooker?
What was that again?
How close were you with Richard Brooker?
Well, I initially met Richard in 2006. My Richard story is a story of don't judge a book by its cover, or first impressions aren't always correct. I was really looking forward to meeting Richard. He's the Jason that donned the mask for the first time and set the look that was to be what we all know him as to be some 35 years later. Mm. He was not in good spirits when I met him. He wasn't very fun or talkative or interested in, I actually had shared a couple pictures with him from the set that I had visited, and he just couldn't, he was really not, he was kind of in an off-putting mood. He wasn't very happy or interested. And I was like, wow. So about a month went by, or a couple months, and I was in the fire academy at the time. and I was at another event, and he happened to be there. And I was just kind of walking by, and he looked at me, and he's kind of like, "Don't I know you?" And I was like, "You look really familiar." I was like, "Yeah, I met you about a couple months ago." And he's like, "Oh my God, it was Orlando, wasn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was." And he's like, "I am so sorry about that day. I just got off the flight. I was very jet lagged. I was very tired and not in a good mood. And I had some bad news. And I know it sounds like a bunch of excuses, but I'm really sorry about that day. And so I apologize." And I thought that was very big of him. I thought that was like, wow, he actually remembered. And, and that was, to me, that spoke volumes about his character. And he's like, "Hey, you want to get a picture?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And that's the picture of me and him on the project page. And then later that night, that's a different story, but we ended up partying in a small group together that night. The transformer blew in that hotel, going room to room, partying, and candlelit rooms. And fun, interesting story. I don't know if I want to tell it now or save it for the DVD. But it was definitely interesting. And then I saw him again a couple months later at a different event, and he, walked up behind me, patted me on the back. He's like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just, I'm up here with friends, hanging out, meeting people, meet and greet, whatever." He's like, "Hey, after I'm done for the day, you want to grab a drink in the bar?" And I was like, "Sure, that sounds great." And then we, after he was done for the day, we went and talked for about 20 to 30 minutes, just about life stuff. And he's like, "Hey, sorry to cut out, but I got to make an appearance over here, talk to these people. And, but hey, it was good to see you." And I was like, "Hey, it was good to see you too." And that was the last time I saw him. That was in August of 2006. I think that was right after I graduated the fire academy. So he just, he was a very humble man with a big heart, and he cared about the fans. He cared about a lot, and I've discovered a lot of things along the way with this documentary. There's a lot of very genuine and touching things that people have shared, and it only fuels the reason why I did this. I knew that about him. I could tell that about him just from meeting him, and and then the follow-up meeting him, and then it just really shocked me when I heard. And then of course with the cabin fire, wanted to share with one, because this is a beloved entry in the series. Everybody loves part 3. Mm-hmm. Part 3 is fun. It screams fun. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of colorful characters, and and then Richard, of course, with that iconic first look at Jason, and it was a pivotal entry in the series. So it was because of Richard and because of the set footage is where the idea started from. And then from there, it's along the way, it's become about a lot more things too. And it's been a really special venture and a project I can't wait to share with people. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Well, definitely we'll keep an eye on what's the Facebook page?
It's does anybody say www anymore?
I don't think so.
No, it's facebook.com/remembering Brooker.
Okay.
I think that the hotel story is its own documentary you should do on your hotel adventure with Richard Brooker.
Yeah, it was funny. It was Richard and Ari Lehman and myself, and I think one of the girls from the Devil's Rejects. And yeah. It was very interesting and fun. I'll never forget that night.
Well, this show is live, Sean. So whatever you say, you can't take back.
Yes.
It's totally unedited. So.
Well, I better consult with my director and editors.
Consult with your attorney. Give Zerner a call. See if
yes.
any kind of legal trouble.
Yeah, so consult with Larry, definitely.
Well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye peeled for when that documentary comes out. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm sure a lot of people are as well. So, yeah. Definitely. I feel really fortunate because I got to meet Richard Brooker literally. It was probably less than a month before he passed away. So, I was very fortunate to meet him. I think it was his very last convention appearance. So.
Yeah, I think it was the Tennessee one, right?
It was in Kentucky.
Kentucky. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Well, we're all definitely looking forward to that documentary. Absolutely.
Fantastic. And I don't know if somebody had said something about the teaser. I thought because my phone was cutting in and out then, so I didn't really quite hear. But somebody said really looking forward to that, and I just wanted to say, if you're talking about our teaser for the documentary, well, thank you.
Yeah, I think we've. I definitely saw the teaser. It looks very promising. So
I had mentioned that I'd seen the teaser and found it really interesting, especially the stuff with Mr. Brooker. So really look forward to that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I need to
Peter.
remove my cat. My cat is attacking me. Hold on a second. You guys keep
mine, I'm sure mine will be up on me here any moment. She's waiting for me to be quiet. Once I start being quiet, she'll come up and attack. But
that's how much people are waiting for the documentary. Cats are jumping into the screens. They want to see
exactly,
right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Isn't there a cat that jumps in part 3? Is that an omen?
Did you do any crowdfunding for this movie at all, or is this just out of your own pocket?
Well, the beginning of it was an Indiegogo project. That's what helped get us our start.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, it's been all me. So
awesome. I hear when I did the book, it started self-funded. It's different now with these crowdfunding things, but back then it's like you got to do it all yourself. It's a challenge. So I applaud you definitely.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's especially with a small crew, it's a very stressful endeavor. You
you realize how much you have to do yourself. Every stamp, every phone call, every email you have to do yourself.
Right. Exactly.
And what makes it really hard too is that this movie was made at a time when there was no social media, right? So you don't have access just to a ton of videos and people's so you're basically relying on memories or still photos and stuff, and that's a very challenging thing for a documentarian to have to work with.
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, and I noticed too from the teaser, you've got several cast members involved as well. So I think there was Paul Bracke on there. Was Dana Kimmel in the teaser? Did I see her in the teaser?
No, she wasn't.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm moving right now. Okay. You guys still there?
Yeah.
We're along for the ride.
It's found footage.
It's found footage.
Yeah,
we knew
it. We tried to get Dana. We actually hold on just a second, guys. All right.
Okay.
We tried to get pretty much everybody we reached out to from the movie, except for 2 people cast-wise, and that's only because we couldn't find the contact information for them. We scoured and tried to reach as many people as possible, and basically who we got for this was who basically just responded and wanted to be a part of it. That's and we understand that that a lot of people are. I mean, this is 35 years later.
Yeah, it was
Some
Tracy
people-
Savage, not Dana Kimmel. Tracy Savage, not Dana Kimmel.
Yeah, we got Tracy.
Yeah.
Her interview was
Great.
excellent. She's
really cool.
She's such a professional. She's so great. Her interview was very awesome.
Yeah.
All of them are great, but
Did you get a reply from Steve Miner?
no.
Well, that's a surprise.
The other ones, it's probably Rachel Howard. She doesn't want anything to do with the movie.
What's that?
Rachel Howard, she played Chili. She wants nothing to do with the movies. So you probably got a note from her too, I would imagine.
Yeah, we reached out to her. We got got her contact info, and no response.
Yeah, it's fine. Not everyone wants to talk about it. But.
Yeah. Steve, we really wanted to get Steve for this, but he, I talked with somebody who has worked with him before, and he basically doesn't do interviews. He just doesn't do them. So, unless there's a bunch of people that are, no, I can't even speculate to that, because there are a bunch of people he worked with in this. Basically, he doesn't do interviews.
Yeah.
So
Probably the only way to catch him, either have to get him on a good day, or if he's promoting a new project, you might be able to get something. That's usually when they'll talk, is if they're promoting a new movie. But
right.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate too. Basically, here's my thoughts on it, and I just had this thoughts today about this. Is maybe once he catches wind of this and it's out there and he sees it, he'll realize how special it is and what we've done. And maybe we can do a special edition and include him and Dana and anybody else that wants to, oh, wow, that was really well done.
Yeah.
Maybe for a special edition, we can maybe do some extra interviews.
Yeah.
But,
that's strange, because they're coming out with a new Blu-ray of House, and he did an interview for that and the commentary. So I guess unless it's House, but not Friday.
He's not.
I'd say that's might be because that's by the company. It's not independent. It's.
Right.
Well, I don't know, Peter. What would you say to that?
During the movie, I'm happy I can throw some out there, but it's a long, complicated story. He does not like talking about Friday the 13th. We were able to sneak in and get a little bit, but it went up and down. He said yes, then no, and he did a thing for a university, had him as a special guest. They did a career retrospective. They got him to talk about it then, but as Harry Manfredini told me, he's like, the minute he got House and he was able to get away from Friday the 13th, he just doesn't. I don't know. He doesn't want to be known for them. I don't know what's going on, but there's some weird thing just with Friday the 13th. He'll talk about other movies. He'll talk about it at conventions, but he doesn't want to go in front of camera or be. It's very strange.
So what you're saying is, if I make a documentary about Soul Man, I can probably get him. Okay.
Well, he actually did he appeared in the documentary for Last House on the Left on the DVD.
Yeah.
Which in my mind, I'm thinking, if you're. I like the movie, but it's very controversial. Like, I would think he'd be more worried about being associated with that than Friday the 13th at this point. So I don't know what it is about Friday the 13th.
There has to be some ill will there, some hard feelings or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could be something behind the scenes that we don't know about.
It's no secret there was some between him and Frank Mancusi Jr. They didn't get along, so I know that might be part of it. But Frank Mancusi Jr. did interviews, so you don't have to talk about that stuff. You can still focus on the positive. So, but again, I'm speculating. You don't know.
Yeah. Well, Peter, are there any breaking news on the new Friday the 13th that's supposed to be coming out anytime or at sometime this year?
They have a script, a director, and a shoot date. They're supposedly casting. However, if I won't get in trouble, talking to Sean Cunningham, he's like, I'll believe it when I see it, just because it's been so many times that they've gotten close.
Yeah.
So until
it's been 8 years.
Yeah. So someone's on. He's like, until we're on set and shooting, and it's like, I get my check. We'll see. But right now, it's the closest they've ever gotten, so that's good. But now there's the whole lawsuit with Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham. You heard about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that still going, or was that settled?
Yeah, it's still. All I know is it's still progressing, so that could jeopardize. It could call into question rights and stuff. So that might scare them from starting, because you can talk to Larry Zerner about it. He's a lawyer, but if Victor was to win, he would then have rights connections, so that would throw into doubt contracts. So maybe he was afraid, hey, if we go front this movie in this lawsuit, throws things in array, we're gonna get sued. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, let me throw this out there real quick. I mentioned this before on a Sausage Factory episode, but Peter, since you're here, I'll throw it out to you. I was actually pretty good acquaintances with a screenwriter from the Friday the 13th series. I hesitate to mention his name at this moment, but anyway, he told me after the 2000 film that he said you will probably never see a sequel to that movie, no matter how well it did. And I said, why? And he goes, because they would need to, with the producers' fees and Platinum Dunes and all that stuff, they would almost have to have $100 million budget for the next Friday the 13th movie to pay off all the. And he goes, they're never going to make another one with that budget, because it wouldn't be impossible to break even.
Yeah, and the other thing with that is when that was I think it was a New Line Warner Paramount co-production, right? The last one.
Yeah.
That's another big reason why now it's just Paramount, is because once you split those profits, studios, there's no money left. So getting down to one studio, I think, will help. I mean, my big fear is, of course, it starts going direct to video.
Yeah.
That's the way the industry is going now. So yeah, because they make money, but not a ton. And now we're in this era of like everything has to be a $300 million Marvel movie, or if it's small scale, it goes to TV. So that's sort of mid-budget, making a few. So they're like, I understand what they're saying. They're like, if we make this movie, even if it's low budget, we got to market it. It fills up one of our slots for the year, and we're only going to get a few $1 million. It doesn't make sense. So I don't know, but. As a fan, of course, I want him to stay on the big screen, so I hope it happens. But it's a different world these days. So.
It is, yes, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, are you guys ready to dive into Friday the 13th, Part 3?
Ready to go.
I got my 3D color scheme. That's why it's all pink and purple. I'm going to do a disco dance.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. Well, we've all got our copies of the film synced up. I hope everybody at home does as well. We'll count down from 3, and then we will start.
We start in black on the logos, or a certain spot we start.
I've got mine at right before the Paramount logo at 0.00.
Yep.
So
me too.
Yep. All right. And 3, 2, and 1. Oh no, this is the 3D version. Stop them! I'm kidding.
Did one of you guys say that you saw it in 3D in the theater?
Yeah, I have. And
Really?
Mike.
Mike saw it in the theater like when it was first coming out.
Yeah, I saw
Tell us about that experience, Mike.
Well, I had been a fan of the series even though I hadn't seen a film at that time. Reading the magazines, Fangoria at the time was really big. I'd seen Halloween 2, I think, by that time, and I was really big into slashers, and it was just, I finally got to see, after hearing the radio ads and seeing the TV commercials for the previous films, finally getting to see one was really amazing. I think I was about 14. So it was definitely a good time, and I didn't care that I didn't get to see it in 3D. It didn't bother me. I was just happy to be able to see one in the theater finally.
Do you remember what the crowd reaction was like?
Turn on that volume there.
So you didn't see it in 3D, or you just saw it in the theater when you were 14?
No, I did not see it in 3D. I just saw it in the theater. Unfortunately,
okay.
I lived in a small town in Indiana, and they didn't have that kind of technology.
You say Indiana?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Indiana. Right on. They don't.
Was there a lot of reaction in the theaters when you saw it? Did people
it's hazy.
react?
I don't really remember.
Gotcha.
I don't even remember how many people were in the
anybody
theater.
in our group tonight seen it in 3D?
I have.
Yeah. I saw it in 1982. I guess we're the old timers of the group. I was 11 years old. The year before, I'd finally seen one. Back on re-releasing movies, they did a double feature of 1 and 2. I saw both, and so it was I was so excited. And then I saw the commercial, because that was back before internet. So all of a sudden you just see a commercial for a movie. Oh my God, it's coming out in 3 days. So we saw it in 3D. This is probably my personal. I'm not saying it's the best Friday the 13th. It's my personal favorite because it's so vivid. It just the crowd reaction was that was back when it was still scary. It wasn't like camp. There was no camp element.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the moments were, but yeah, that was it was amazing. And I actually saw it in 3D recently here in LA. They showed it a few times. The 3D really holds up. I mean,
yeah,
it's way better than Jaws 3D and a couple other ones, which aren't so good. So yeah, it's still so memorable. I loved it. So
yeah, that's great. That's awesome. That's awesome, Peter. It's on my bucket list. on my
Yeah.
bucket list.
They do show now it's hard. You have to get like a silver screen. It's a certain technology. So definitely you have to see it on the screen in 3D. It's just it's really even more impressive what they had to do because it's low budget and what they accomplished. Like some of the shots, like the opening seems kind of slow, but when you see it in 3D, you realize those shots where they go through the clothesline stuff are really intricate. It's really impressive.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, very cool. Well, I saw when I was 6, Jaws 3 in 3D. So, yeah, and I don't think I would have made it through Friday 3 in 3D because I was 5 then, and I didn't make it 15 minutes into Jaws 3 in 3D. According to my dad, he.
It was the dolphins that scared you.
What's that?
It was the dolphins, Cindy and Sandy, that scared you, right? Just kidding.
You know what? They do strange things, those dolphins. You better watch out for the dolphins. Yeah, so I guess I begged him and begged him and begged him. He's like, no, Sean, you're not going to like it. No. I kept at him. He finally caved. And, I don't remember much about it except, I don't know, maybe it was the shark coming at the screen or something. And it was like, dad, oh my God. And I like bit into his arm, I guess. He's like, son of a bitch. And he's like, that's it, we're out of here. And we left. That was it. It was like 15 minutes in, he said. So, yeah, I don't think I would have made Friday 3 the year before, but I would have loved to have.
Everything's scary.
The first time I saw Friday 3, I didn't make it beyond the disco credits. I just ran out of the room screaming. That was all I needed to hear. I just ran out screaming.
Well, we're about to see that, so
We're about, and I may run out screaming. So just brace yourself.
Oh, the funky disco theme.
Yeah.
Yes.
In this series.
What's so funny is that like by 1982, disco was over. So it always perplexed me why they want to do a disco theme for this movie because disco was already, not cool. So I still understand that.
I don't know. I think we've already established that Paramount's out of touch.
Yeah.
They've always been out of touch, apparently.
Wasn't that after the Disco Sucks revolution and or explosion in the baseball park?
I was there for that. I grew up in Chicago. I have pictures of it.
Right.
Yeah. They did a bonfire in the center of the thing. They were throwing records. People got hit in the face. It was like ambulance came. It was like, it was a huge deal.
Wasn't that Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer?
Yep.
Yeah, I grew up like 57 miles east of Chicago in Indiana.
Oh, all right. I grew up in Chicago and then the suburbs later on. But yeah, I remember when if you bought a Disco 45, you got like a discount because then you're supposed to throw them during it's a double header. So, but there's footage on YouTube. I think it's pretty incredible.
Well, actually, that's one of the interviews I had. I sat down with Michael Sager when I was living in Florida and I asked him about that. I just wanted to talk with him about basically what's up with this song. And however many ways I could put the question or whatever, how it came to be, that could be on the doc too. Definitely want to include that. And interesting story. But yeah, I thought it was totally dead too at the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Was the answer
like, no, it was totally still relevant.
Did the answer involve cocaine in any way?
Well, it's funny. This is I don't think we have a trivia contest after this, but a trivia question was: I remember the name of the band that performed the song because Michael Zager told me that they did a 12-inch to put it out, and they just needed a name, so they came up with a name of a band that made it, even though him and Harry Manfredi actually did it. But that's a little trivia bit. It's in the end credits of the movie.
It's actually I asked him about that. You're talking about Hot Ice. Right?
Yes, that was the name they came up with.
He had no idea.
Yeah.
Hot Ice?
Yes.
I've never heard that before. Wow.
I'm thinking that could be a euphemism for cocaine, hot ice. I don't know.
Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
It all comes back to cocaine.
It all comes back to cocaine, yeah.
Concerning the 80s, yeah, that's true.
It was indeed. It was the 80s.
When I was a kid, right before the final chapter came out, USA did like 3 consecutive Saturdays in a row. They played Friday the 13th Part 1, and the next Saturday was Part 2, the next Saturday was Part 3. And what's so bizarre was that I was such a little kid. I actually thought it was like a TV series, so I kept tuning in like the next Saturday. Okay, well, what's going to happen next? So I didn't see 3 originally in 3D, but a few years later, the Dream Theater in Monterey, it's now closed, unfortunately, but that was one of the few true 3D theaters in this area, and they actually played Friday the 13th Part 3 as like a Saturday morning like kids show. And so like there was like 175 8 to 12-year-olds in this movie on a Saturday morning, and the kids loved it, and they ate their popcorn and threw it everywhere, and then they went home at 12 o'clock at noon or whatever. And it was just like, that was so bizarre, because this was a movie, this whole series is, it's tremendously scary, especially back in the early 80s with kids and stuff like that. But by the late 80s, it was just kind of like, I don't know, kids just loved monster movies. And so they would just play this like they did, all those movies that were being spoofed in Joe Dante's Matinee. They just, it was almost,
Totally.
Yeah, totally.
So it's funny. Clearly, this movie is possessed because my lights just went crazy.
Well, I was gonna say that you look like you're in a Nicholas Winding Refn movie.
I was somewhere I bought it for Christmas. I bought these new LED lights for Christmas, and they really love Friday Part 3 in disco. I don't know what's going on, so I popped it.
It's neon demon action.
It's very stylish. People.
Yeah, I like the red. That's good. That's good on the eve of Friday the 13th.
So what date does Friday the 13th Part 3 take place on? Is this Saturday the 14th right now?
Don't ask. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think they. I think Part 2 did they set up Part 2 as being on a Friday? I don't think so. Part 4, I mean, I don't think they. I'm trying to remember.
You're already asking too many questions.
I am.
Sorry. Look at this product placement though. Coors and Light.
Yes. Look out for the locomotives too. I always love that sign. It's hard to see.
This is a really nice opening sequence. I think it's really kind of creepy.
Yeah, this is like a good 1 or 2 minute shot. I mean, this is one of those shots, especially the big screen 3D. You realize, wow, they had to move the camera and light all this and get everything in focus. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Are you guys going through the credit sequence right now, or beyond that? Because I can't see it.
We're at the beginning, the very beginning of the movie, where the
laundry.
The laundry.
Oh, yeah. Harold and Edna's. You know, it was about the. You know, what really got me about this movie. I remember when I first saw it when I was a kid. It wasn't so much the in-your-face scares with Jason and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of the foreboding, like you know, Chris looks out the window and sees the barn door like swaying in the breeze, and you hear the. I mean, just that kind of creepiness that was just kind of eerie. It was like, what's going to happen now? It's like you expected this crazy stunt to just follow that, but it just didn't. It was always that kind of, that's what really got me about this movie when that's the first thing I saw about it when I was a kid.
What does that say? Say hi to Lionel and H2O?
I never noticed that. Lionel and it's a precursor to Halloween.
Oh, I guess that was the name of the fish.
Yeah,
the 2 fish.
I like the Great Train Robbery poster there too.
Yeah.
Well, there was something. There's something about the first 4 Friday the 13th movies. There's just something very dark and sinister about them. Just the atmosphere of them of those 4 movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of comedy placed into those. I mean, there's jumps and scares, but you got like part 5? You got the neighbors next door.
Yeah.
That's total comedy. I mean, after we interviewed Dick Wien for the documentary, that night the crew we watched part 5, and none of them remembered that movie, and it's been a long time since I'd seen it. But we had a riot. That movie is hilarious.
Yeah, I love it. I love part 5.
I think the difference with these earlier. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
What's that?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, and I was just gonna say, and then 6 has the dark humor, with all the whatnots, the jokes and whatnot.
Yeah.
Now, I was gonna say these early ones, but I think what's different is this is before slashers became like this, cliche. So like they're playing this totally straight, like this is new and fresh. There's no even as much self-awareness that, it's so formulaic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're well made.
It's totally
They're well
serious.
made, but they're well made, but they're not slick.
Yeah.
Right.
Not self-aware. Like, this is still supposed to be totally scary, straightforward. Kind of
And
stuff.
well, you can tell that they're not on some soundstage. They're in the middle of whatever state they're filming this one in.
California, of course.
Yeah.
Which is totally obvious now. But as a kid, I didn't notice, but now I'm like, oh my god, this is like California, palm trees and desert.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this. What is it about Friday the 13th Part 3, aside from the 3D elements, that make it so special? And Rahu, I know you're a huge fan of the movie. What do you think?
I think, for me anyway, the thing that always stuck with me was Brooker's performance as Jason. To this day, I won't get into it right now because we'll see the scenes later. But some of the scenes where he's playing Jason, he actually spooked the shit out of me. So I think that always kind of stuck in my mind. And you can say what you want about the acting or whatever like that, but I kind of like the characters. The people in the movie they're distinct, they're interesting, they're kind of funny, they're a little weird. It kind of sticks, like that whole thing with Chili and that other guy. I can't believe I'm watching a guy take a shit right now.
Yeah,
Trying to talk. I'm like, oh, here we go. And I always love to drink whiskey on the shitter too.
Who doesn't?
Well, it's
Anyway,
when you turn it up, it's hard to hear, but here you can hear it. You could actually make like poopy sounds.
Yeah, there's some serious
Yeah.
While it says Coca-Cola on screen too, which is great.
Yeah.
This is
I
interesting.
Oh, hey, guys! I just remembered something.
Yeah.
This was pointed out to be a girl that I was dating at the time in high school. We were watching Part 3 one time. The dumping scene. I haven't thought about this in 20 years. He gets up from the whiskey in the dumping scene, and he goes to leave, and it shows that high angle shot. She's like, "Hey, or movie screw up. There's nothing in the toilet."
I just noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
I'm happy about that screw up.
Yeah, me too, because he didn't wipe his
It
ass.
didn't sound
same
fucking
otherwise.
pleasant. Whatever just happened there didn't sound good. So I love how he has like a million pens. What is Harold doing?
both these effects didn't work out the way they were supposed to. The hatchet was supposed to shoot blood, and then the blood didn't work the way. So neither of these really were as effective as they're supposed to be. But back then it was like you couldn't CGI, you couldn't shoot. They had limited amount of money, so they had to do what they could do with the effect, and that's what you got.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I know you're a big fan of Part 3 as well. What is it about the film that's very special to you?
Aside from being the first one I saw in a theater, I like the setting. Even though the acting it's not great, I do enjoy the characters. Shelley and Chili and her Chong boyfriend, and yeah, those guys crack me up. I don't know. It's got some good kills in it. I mean, I like the handstand kill.
Oh, yeah.
That's always stuck out. I mean, of course, Brooker is Jason. I think this is my favorite Jason just because of the way he played him. He was athletic, but yet he was smart, but yet still animalistic and very predator-like. And I really enjoyed that about the character. He wasn't just a stiff, unstoppable force. He actually seemed like a human.
He was hulking.
Just a big Hulk.
Yeah,
I think one thing that I always think of when I watch this movie and Brooker's performance is that and this may be just totally in my own head, but it's almost like you can see him thinking. Whereas it just seems like a lot of the other Jasons were just, seek and destroy. It kind of seemed to me like he was thinking about, okay, well, if I go in this way, I can get her from behind and I can do it. So I don't know. He kind of, like, even that opening sequence, how he sort of played it, come in here, but then she didn't, so he showed up behind her, and it's the thinking Jason.
It's almost like he toys with people.
Yeah.
What's interesting about these first early ones is I love Kane Hodder and everything, but his Jasons were kind of all this. He played them kind of the same. This one, like each movie, like you watch part 2 and the character's appropriately more like kid-like, and this one now he's more confident, kind of more bad. Like each movie, he progressed Jason a little bit, in how they developed him. He wasn't yet like Han, he still was a real character, a damaged soul, if you will. So I like the Brooke brought to it, So.
Yeah.
Well, what I really like about these, I think that really makes them interesting is it's like the continuity is not there. It leaves gaps, and all the gaps aren't filled in, which makes it interesting for viewers to just keep talking about the movies and the story and this and that. It keeps it. It's not just like, okay, it's all explained for you, so there it is. But Brooker's he appears so much bigger than Steve Dash's Jason. And it's just the next day. So
And he's bald.
I always thought that was an interesting aspect.
He apparently started supercuts on the way.
We got Cheech and Chong in here.
Cheech and Chong Ed, right?
Well, yeah. Well, they got a big because wasn't Brooker like an acrobat at some point in his life?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he's in the circus.
Yeah. So he was big. Where I've met Steve Dash. He's not a real big, imposing guy. Brooker was definitely a big, imposing guy, but he was also very, like Mike said, very athletic. So.
Yeah, I'm sure Sean, you'll have that in your documentary too. But he told me he purposely did stuff with his hands. Like you'll see some shots the way he hooks over. He used some of that acrobat stuff to create a physical language of his own.
Yeah. But Richard was. Richard was a very fit guy back in '82. He was a tall guy, but he wasn't. I mean, when I saw part 3 when I was a kid, I was like expecting this huge, massive, almost not Lou Ferrigno, but maybe close kind of looking guy when I met Richard, and I had to do a double take when I met Richard because here's this guy standing behind this table. And I was like, oh, he must be on break or something. And I talked to some people, and they're like, no, that's Richard Brooker. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, this guy's my height, and he's probably 20 or 30 pounds less than me, and I'm not really a heavy guy. I'm, pretty average or whatever. I'm 200 pounds. So it's like he was like 6'3", super slim. I think he was more slim than back in the day, but he was still slim back then. They had made in the makeup and for the shoulders and whatnot is what made him, because you put the beef up there and then you just put the shirt on, you just look massive. Richard was really he was a tall, slender, guy, and I was surprised when I met him. I wasn't expecting that.
That just means to me that he was very successful in using the makeup to effectively to build a character, because he worked it. He really made it look natural.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and the scene that we just passed in the van eating the weed, I've been there. It's not a pleasant experience eating that much weed.
Hey, go vegan.
There you go.
As long as you mix it with chocolate cake or something.
Wash it down. Wash it down.
Yeah. Wash it down a little bit.
I also love this sort of stand-in for Crazy Ralph character here.
Yeah.
There's actually later on they cut, but he comes back. There's a couple stills I think in the book. I don't know why they cut it, but he does come back later and find him children in the woods.
I like how it says Ski Bunny and I love skiing on the van. Obviously, we're not in the Northeast anymore.
Nowhere where you can ski. All the palm trees might have moved away at one point there.
Also,
I just like Jason was so nice enough to give him the eyeball. Like, hey, look what you gave me.
Here you go, man.
Gift. I want to see that scene.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Stick it right in our face. Looks like a testicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
This is the only part of the movie where there's no mention of Crystal Lake and Jason at all.
Oh, you can see dirt on the lens up there in the upper corner. I had an ex-girlfriend once that had a bridge like that. It was terrible, just like that.
Well, they definitely, I think, and I remember this from your book, Peter, but the emphasis was far more on getting the 3D down right and a lot less on the sort of the acting or, you know what I mean, some of the other elements of the movie. Exactly. Yes. Yes. Was it that they maybe bit off more? Whose idea was it to do this in 3D anyway?
It was the Paramount's and Frank Mancuso Jr. and Steve Meyer. So what happened was the 3D craze blew up, and Paramount's like, okay, what properties do we have? They originally were going to do Star Trek 3 in 3D, but it was too expensive. So they looked at their stuff and like, hey, a new Friday the 13th's coming out, 13th 3D, 3, you know, and they kind of looked into it, and Steve Meyer and Frank Mancuso Jr. wanted to do it as well, and that was it. It's like, let's do this. So it'd be fun. So yeah, it was a big operation. People didn't realize back then all special. So Paramount spent a lot, and in a lawsuit actually, spent a lot of money to outfit theaters with new screens and stuff because they had to open wide. It was a big undertaking. So they did. So people always say, you know, Paramount was embarrassed of these movies, but in this case, they put a lot into it. Money.
Well, didn't they get embarrassed by it, like, as the series went on because they started getting more and more flack?
What you guys said.
Yeah, it was a mix. Like they said, you know, the big executive, you know, at the end of the day, it's money. It's, you know, the big executives were not like, oh my God, you know, we're so proud of you, Friday the 13th, but they weren't that embarrassed. You know what I mean? Like it was Frank Mancuso Jr. So it was more the filmmakers themselves that was tougher on like him because he got a lot of flack. He became known as the Friday the 13th guy and stuff. So the studio didn't really care as much. It really came down to the individual people sometimes, you know, felt like their reputation was harmed by being involved.
Now today, a studio would love to have a series like this under their belt.
Well, all the studios back then, that's, I mean, people, you know, all of them did a slasher movie at one point. Some did big budget stuff. I mean, Paramount did My Bloody Valentine, and someone else did The Fan. You know, I mean, there was all the Fox had Visiting Hours. You know, they all jumped on the bandwagon. So at the end of the day, if you make money, they don't care.
Even though the acting is kind of questionable, you know, considering they basically didn't get any direction, I have to give them some credit. I mean, they're trying. I think it's pretty decent.
Well, I think that, yeah, you know, what I really like about, and I think one of you guys already said this, to echo that sentiment, the characters are just fun. This part 3 is just fun to me. That's what it equals. It's, you know, it's got all the gags of 3D. It's got this really interesting group of characters that's, you know, they're trying something different with this one. You know, the first one was counselors. The second one was basically counselors. You know, it was the same, but a little bit different. And so mixing it up with, okay, well, these guys are away for the weekend and just a group of friends, and what kind of colorful characters can we throw in there? You know, you got a jokester, you got the serious boyfriend, Paul Bracke, you got girlfriend, boyfriend, Cheech and Chong.
And the bikers, of course.
The bikers.
And bikers.
Yeah.
Don't forget Ali.
Bikers.
One thing I really like about this movie, I think it has a really good structure. I mean, I have a couple problems. I think the gang members are maybe on too long. It's kind of filler. But like, you know, has like the first act that introduces people, the second act with like the stalking, and then the third act, which I think is I think this has the best climax of the 13th. It has like really, it's like 22 minutes long chase scene. So there's a really nice, you know, structure to it, which works well. The later ones, you know, became so much about murder every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
This has some build up to it.
Now in the documentary, they talk about this area is inhabited by a lot of snakes. Was it inhabited by snakes at the time too, where, you know, they were fearful to be bit, or is it just a recent thing?
I remember the stories in the book. They said there was a lot of problems, like bees infested this. There's a scene coming up. They had to move outside because it was supposed to be shot inside, but bees infested the lodge, so they couldn't shoot. There was like footprints coming out of the man-made lake. There was snakes and other critters. So I think because they took over a set and built most of the stuff, and they built that man-made lake, so I think it attracted a lot of vermin. But I don't remember any stories about anyone being attacked by a snake. But Sean might know more.
As far as somebody being attacked.
No, they just talked about that there was a lot of snakes when they went back to the location. So I was wondering if there was that problem when they were filming too.
Well, they had a multitude of issues with this film, and it's not only just the logistics of shooting a 3D film in this style for the first time ever. It's also the area itself, and it's in the Santa Clarita Valley. Back then, there was a lot of stuff that was coming into play, the elements during when they were shooting this, and so on and so forth, that were just it was a very challenging shoot. So yeah, the 3D for itself was its own, serious something to contend with in making it. But yeah, they ran into a lot of just natural element stuff that was snakes, possibly. Don't want to give too much away. We'll go into that a little bit in the doc. But yeah, there was other things as well. Peter touched on the bees and the hive of bees. Yeah, and then there was other things as well that it was tough. It was tough. I think they planned on maybe I don't know, perhaps Paramount was saving some money with the film being in California as opposed to shooting it across the country. But the problems they ran into making it certainly made up for that difference. I'm sure it was not smooth. It was not a smooth shoot. Mm-hmm. I talked to Dan Tuesday as well. So, and
I heard the biggest threat. I heard the biggest threat to cast and crew on this set was Larry Zerner.
Totally. It's fro.
It was that fro. Yeah, it was those tight blue pants and that fro. And, it was just a walking wild man,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the scene right here where they're outside. Yeah, they were supposed to shoot this in the lodge, and then the bees infested the lodge, so they had to shoot this scene quickly outside. I was wondering why there's a fence there, too. I'm like, why would be a fence and like that? But
well, that separates Jason's property from. So
that's where he stores all his marijuana plants.
Yeah, that's where the weed is.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
Well, also, Peter, isn't this one, this is one of the rare entries where in the series, I don't know if it's the only one, but nobody knows who this guy is. He's a total stranger.
This is the only one with not yet. Jason. Not Crystal Lake or Jason's mentioned in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing that doesn't make sense. Is Dana Camille at the end? How could she imagine Mrs. Voorhees coming out of the water? She has no idea who Mrs. Voorhees is. It really makes no sense.
Was that an oversight or was that intentional?
Well, the original ending's different. We can talk about when we get to the endings. So they came up with that. They did 3 different endings. I just think they didn't really think it through.
The ending where Jason comes out and cuts her head off. Yes. That one looked like it would have been really cool. Why did they ditch that one?
They said that they thought it was a little too depressing, and then Frank Mancuso Jr. always pushed for water. He felt every fighting ending should have water. That's why the Part 4 ending, where the mom comes out of the bathtub, that eventually got cut. Every single that was all Frank Mancuso Jr. So that was it. Yeah, but when you think about it, wait, how could she fantasize about Mrs. Voorhees? She doesn't know who she is. But I think the fans, we spend more time thinking about this than the filmmakers did.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Those Cheez-Its look good.
Yeah.
You guys to the part in the gas station?
Yeah.
Didn't it take 54 tries? Didn't it take 54 tries to get that wallet toss right?
Yeah, totally. That's what Larry Zerner said. Yeah, they kept saying, hit your mark, and eventually, hit your mark, asshole. They're so angry that we're not getting it right.
Poor Zerner.
You guys know the sign too behind the cashier, it says Happy Valley, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
To make it seem like it was the East Coast.
Just don't worry about those palm trees everywhere. Just that sign.
Yeah, exactly. So, Sean, did you
Well,
actually visit this set ever? The convenience store? I've never been there.
What was that, Peter?
Oh, have you ever visited the convenience store set here? The one where the gang members go to? I've never been. I've been to I've been to the old lodge and barn before it burned down, but I've never
Well,
been.
actually,
The
yeah,
convenience.
that was well, in the teaser trailer. That's the same gas station.
Oh, okay. So you've been there. Okay.
This is a great camera move right here. Where
Yeah.
it spans around.
And yeah, it's great. Actually, I think the interior of the gas station has been switched around a little bit.
Okay.
It's either that or they did some weird angles on it that make it look different.
Hmm.
But the exterior looks unchanged except the gas price out front.
Yeah. Of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this scene was also longer in the original script. Sorry, this is a more extended chase sequence. They cut it for money and time. So.
Well, you said that the house and the barn burnt down. Was that recently? When did that happen?
Or is it just a lodge, Sean? I know one of them burned down. I don't know if both did.
Burned down in it was April 2006.
Okay.
So almost just over a decade ago.
Okay.
The fun thing when I went like quite a few years ago was it's right by Magic Mountain, so you can kind of go there and you hear roller coasters in the background. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, it's really unfortunate because it was, it's iconic. It was, just too bad. It really is.
And it was built like forced perspective, and they actually had things that move. It was like a really cool made set. And I think, if I understand, it was burnt. It was arson. Like it was, I don't know if it's accidental, but I guess people went in there, and so maybe you could blame Friday. I might have been Friday fans, but right, Sean, I think it was burned down. It was an accident, but it was arson. It wasn't. It didn't start by itself. Like someone was in there, and that's why it burned down. I think I read.
Yeah. Well, we definitely hit that heavy in
oh, cool.
In the doc that we did our due diligence in discovering what happened that night. And,
oh, cool.
Yeah, there's a detective's archives that are, facts are presented, and it's based on that, and and the findings of what happened that night. And so that's actually a big part of the doc. And
cool.
But yeah, it's just it was a real trip. It was a real trip to be there because, like I mentioned earlier, seeing the barn doors like sway in the breeze with that sound effect. It was those little things when I was a kid when I saw this that really creeped me out. It's kind of like what Carpenter did with Halloween. It's like you think you see something, you think you hear something, but it's not really there, and it's just messing with you. Or is it really there? It's a Jack in the Box, and it's going to get you. I mean, and then to be there, and be on, it was really surreal. It was, and then to be in the presence of that barn that really freaked me out when I was a kid. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And then to not have, anybody able to experience that whole set with the cabin intact the way it was, it just really, it's a real bummer. It's sad because a lot of these, sets are history now. The camp from the first one still stands and is an operational Boy Scout camp in New Jersey. Part two's location, which actually was my favorite location in the series, is those cabins are all gone. The lodge is gone. It's leveled. There's a new house there in Connecticut, and really, really rich people must live there to build a house there. It's a very expensive part of northwestern Connecticut. And then there's a lot of part three stuff that's absolutely just gone. The cabin's gone, and Harold and Edna's convenience store is gone, and so it's just unfortunate. And I found out with the fourth one, that party house across the way from the Jarvis cabin was just built for the movie, and it was built to code. But they took it down like right after the movie was over for whatever reason. I have no idea, because in California, that's a property value right there. Why not? That's a nice big house. You just built, but whatever. So it's just the passing of time, and I guess the way things go.
Did anybody notice in the window of the bug you could see? I saw the boom mic guy, and I think I saw Steve Miner's reflection. I saw Steve Miner's reflection breaking a chair. What was that about? What was that about?
I liked when Jason opened the barn door, and you could clearly see that he was, he had his mask. I didn't have, his face, but he wasn't wearing the sheet over his head or anything.
Yeah. I like that kind of stuff in this, the kind of build up the little shots, like you guys were saying. That there's a little bit of atmosphere to it. The swinging doors. That's what I miss in the new movies. They don't do that anymore. They don't.
They don't even use Manfredini's score anymore.
Yeah. I have to say this is one of the funniest scenes in fighting history when she has like walking through the barn hitting stuff.
Yeah, she is digging this barn.
Yeah,
she was. Yeah, she's never been in a barn before, so it's all new.
Oh, look at all this old shit.
Yeah.
Wow, the smell of horse poop is awesome.
Yeah.
So Fox. So this is the woman who doesn't want anything to do with the movie?
No. No,
Chili.
Yes, no, it's Chili. It's the Cheech and Chong.
Chili, the female Cheech and Chong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's a therapist now, so you can find her. I mean, it's not a secret. She's online. You can look her up. But I always thought it was a joke. We thought we'd go make an appointment and then sit down and be like, "It's amazing. This crazy dream. I keep thinking of a barn."
You'd be kicked out of there in about 5 seconds.
Yep.
Even if you were on the clock, she'd
Yes.
kick you right out of there.
I have a question. After that documentary came out, did you or Daniel hear from other people that didn't do interviews and say, "Oh, I wish we could have been a part of that"? Now, after they saw
a couple, that they came around once they saw that it was like the book came out. It was kind of a big thing. We would have done that. But the really out of it people still don't want it. There's not that many of them. Most people are. Especially now, it's like, well, it's 35 years ago. Who cares? It's fun, just embrace it. I think. There's 2 or 3 though still don't want it. Like the screenwriters of this, Martin Kitrosser and Carol Watson, they won't talk about it either. I don't know why.
Well, Martin Kitrosser is like Quentin Tarantino's DP now, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I love her swinging on the rope. This feels good. I love her like foxtail or whatever she is.
Yeah.
What that is. Well, one of my favorite lines in this film, and I know we're already past the part, from Larry. I beg your pardon. I'm not an asshole. I'm an actor.
Yeah. It's funny how on his Facebook he tells everyone, he's like, "I'm not an asshole." He's like, what's his new line? "I'm not an asshole. I'm a lawyer, an attorney," or something. He has a new line. Yeah, I'm not an asshole. I'm an attorney. Yes, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I just love these gang members. Like as a kid, they seem like so like rough, and now I'm like so.
Yeah.
This is like the worst
motorcycle gang ever.
Yeah.
I actually met Nick Savage. In 2005, and he, it was at it was like a 25th anniversary for the first Friday the 13th
convention.
Hollywood Island.
Yep.
And,
I was there too.
Yeah. Who was there? Who?
I was there. Yeah. Because I remember Betsy Palmer was there. The Stunt Choreographer Part 2 and Steve Daskowitz and Warrington Gillette were there. It was in the corner of Hollywood Highland in this really weird like old bank space. It was a really strange thing.
Yeah. It's basically this small room at the bottom of this really big building.
Yep. They used to be big.
Highland. And they just crammed all these people from parts 1 through 9 in this small room. And it was like shoulder to shoulder in there. And then Nick Savage was there.
Only convention.
He was a really, really nice guy. He was really cool. And of course, I only got one hockey mask myself, and that's the one you see in the documentary and everything. And I I showed it, I had it with me, and he's like, "Oh man, get that away." He's like, "I can't see that. I can't see it." He was like half joking, but he was half serious. He was like, "I still have nightmares about that thing. Like, I can't. I was like, "Are you kidding?" He was like laughing. I could tell he had a serious tone. Like, yeah.
There's some pictures from that event in the book. If you go to the end of the book, the section where it shows people today, some of those photos, one of Clark Lincoln and Kevin Spears is from Part 7. That's from that convention.
Now, the co-screenwriter that Piz was talking about, Martin Kutrosser, he also wrote Friday 5.
Yeah.
Well, so that you guys know the whole story about the scripts, right? Okay, so the original script for Part 5 was Part 3. Amy still has the script, so they wanted her to come back. She's in an institution. She's having visions of Jason. Then she turned it down, and so they got Petru Popescu to come in and rewrite the script and keep some of it, and then they used that concept for Part 5. So originally, Part 5 was Part 3 with Amy Steele in the Tommy Jarvis role. It's very fascinating. That's why there's a Barnes in both movies, too. So,
why did you have to turn that down? That would have been awesome.
Yeah. She says now she regrets not coming back. Her agent told her not to do it. She says, it's in the book, she's like, hey, I should have done it, but...
As much as I love this movie, I've always had like a soft spot for Amy Steele in Part 2.
Oh yeah, she's actually
just so
she's been really good. So I mean, God bless Dana. But,
Yeah. Oh yeah, not like I said.
no, Amy Steele.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got to meet Amy Steele back in the summer, last summer, and she was so nice.
Yeah,
so nice.
She looks amazing. She always looks. Her and Adrian King it's the same mom. Like it's weird. Really.
She does. They both. I met them both the same day. They both. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. Yeah. Well, one thing that I've always thought was interesting about Jason specifically in this movie, and I talked about it a little before, that he was more of a thinking Jason, as opposed to the seek and destroy Jasons that we saw in Part 2 and all the others. But this sequence in particular, Dana's flashback, it adds an element to Jason where is Jason trying to kill her or is Jason trying to rape her? And if Jason was trying to kill her, why didn't he kill her? And did he rape her? Was that something that they talked about in the development of this movie? Was that something that was okay?
Well, it's really so Petru Popescu, he's the one who's the uncredited screenwriter. I don't know if you read the book. They hired him to rewrite the script, and then his agent said, "Take your name off of it." And he's on the novelization. That's how I found it. If you read the novelization, his name's on it. That's the only reason I knew he did it. And he wanted to give her a backstory or some connection, and they didn't want to go so far as to say rape, because that would make it too dark and not fun anymore. He doesn't feel now. He's like, looking back, it wasn't really good because it's so nebulous. Like people are just confused by it.
Right.
But they put it up to Hart before the final chapter. Barney Coleman said his goal at the end of that movie was Jason. He's with Trish and Tommy, and his original ending or original script was Jason suddenly is aroused by Trish. He reaches and tries to touch her. And that's when Tommy kills him, because at that moment, for the first time, Jason is distracted by something other than killing. He's aroused with sex, and Tommy kills him, but the producers didn't like it, thought that was too whatever. So there has been kind of this weird, like, people trying to give Jason a little sexual edge, but it doesn't seem like it's never. I think it's a good idea. Once Jason becomes like a sex killer, I don't know, it would be weird if he started raping.
You know what I take it as, and this is just me. He's reaching out because he's still like a child in a lot of ways. And so he's reaching out for connection, even though he's fueled by revenge. He's reaching out to Trish. He wants to connect. He's reaching out to Dana and just trying to bring her closer because he doesn't know how else to do that. To relate anymore. I don't know.
I always kind of felt that, like in part two, he was like a wild boy. And in this one, which is a day later, he seems like a little bit more mature. Yeah. Well, I was thinking more like, well, he's still a human, even though he's mentally deficient. And that just may be his urge to mate, and he doesn't understand. So he sees a female, he gets the urge to mate, But to him, it's not rape. He doesn't understand those concepts. He's just a wild animal.
Yeah.
But to her, it would be rape. To him, it would just be mating. So I always thought that was kind of a nice little addition to the character.
It's interesting. John Carpenter said about the original Halloween and Michael Myers, his goal was Michael Myers has a traumatic experience and kills his sister. He's frozen in that moment. So he's like a kid replaying that same moment. And I feel like all these slasher movies, they copied that. So it is always about this kid man who like is frozen in this. So it is like if it gets too into adult sexuality, I don't think it works. These killers kind of have to be like these.
Right. It would go into a formula, then it would be a different movie, series.
And I want to see Jason rape people. That wouldn't like it's weird to say, but these movies are fun. Like I know you're watching people get killed,
right?
But there is still a certain lighthearted element. I mean,
you don't want that.
I personally don't, but some people.
It's okay if you know Jason's human enough to have those urges, but we don't want to see it played out.
Well, like I like harsh movies like Last House on Left Hills. You know, those movies that have that harder edge. But I don't think Predator is that really.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. Yeah.
He's just very, 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 very horny, so he's pissed off all the time.
Wasn't it Adam Green that said that this is one of his favorite monologues in film history?
As a kid, I took it totally seriously. It's like, oh my god, this poor girl is so traumatized. Now it's like hilarious.
Well, let me ask the most serious question about this movie. And actually, our friend and frequent contributor to the show, Eric, who's not here tonight, was curious about this in last week's show. And because he is a complete and utter pervert, he wanted to know why this Friday the 13th had such a lack of nudity in it, coming off of part 2, which had a lot of nudity, and then part 4, which had a lot of nudity. Is there any reason why this movie didn't have a lot of nudity? And again, this is from Eric, not me, because he's a pervert.
I'm asking this for a friend.
Well, you know, if you think about part 2, there's only one person that's nude, which is Kirsten Baker, that famous scene. I think it's really down to the actor, like, you know, Tracy Savage has a little bit of nudity. Dana Kimmel said she wasn't comfortable, like she has to have lines to be changed. Yeah. And part 4 has a lot more, but like 6 has none. I don't know. I don't know if they sat down and said we're not going to have as much nudity. Maybe it's up to Tracy Savage. That one scene in the hammock, she didn't want to do anything more. They showed the feet, you know. That's all she would do. So I think maybe that's it. And then the actress saying no. I don't know. And then you have like Danny Steinman, who's a total pervert. God bless his rest his soul.
I know. God bless him.
Yeah, he loved nudity, you know. So I think it depends. And Tom McLaughlin, obviously, it's not like you know, he's all no stories. You know, he's much more. He wanted just a nice, fun movie, and there's no nudity. So I guess it comes down to the director and stuff. The only thing wrong with this flashback is Jason is bald. Like he should have his long hair.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
And it looks like he's wearing the clothes that he stole off
Yeah.
the line.
It's weird.
That's the
Threw all the money at the 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really the thing that keeps people talking about these, or part of the lore of these is the non-continuity.
Yeah.
Because if everything like fit and made sense and flowed and there was no questions, and you know, I don't know, it almost gets me to think that they did it almost intentional. So people would perpetually talk about these. You know, it's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. He's a lot bigger and he's bald, and this is the next day. How'd that happen? So definitely very interesting.
Yeah.
Although technically you don't know how long he was, because when he goes to the convenience store at the beginning, he does have his old clothes on. They do, but we don't know how long that was from part 2. He could have been a month. He could have been in the woods for a while before he got the door.
Don't they drive by the scene?
Well, I mean, that's the day after he kills him.
Yeah.
But before he gets to the convenience store, like we don't know how long from when he escaped part 2.
Aren't the couple at the beginning watching on TV?
Oh, you're right.
News?
I'm wrong. You're right. Never mind.
Yeah,
You're right.
on the news.
And when he just attacked Chris in her flashback, he was wearing the clothes that he stole off the line at that convenience store. But that attack happened before he did that.
We're overthinking it.
I still fall back on not give a shit.
Yeah.
This
I
is
don't think they give a
evil.
shit.
This evil twin brother.
Unless he's wearing a wig in part 2. He just took it off.
Maybe it was a
A
disguise. He was trying to
hairpiece.
disguise himself.
You know what's interesting about this movie? If you look at the time, I'm at like 52 minutes. It's the scene where Chuck's going to the outhouse. There hasn't been a single of the main cast murdered yet, and we're almost an hour into the movie. It's only a 95-minute movie. It's very interesting that it takes so long.
I love that old style. That was always the way it was. You had the introductions, the build up, and then the ending. It was a 3-part arc like it's supposed to be. And then it got bastardized sometime in the 80s.
They decided that every beat of the movie at some point had to be a kill. Not it had to be a storyline beat. It had to be kill.
Well, I think
kill.
That's in part 5.
Yeah, that started in part 5 because Danny Steinman said that was one of the things that whoever this Mancuso said, every 10 minutes or so there needed to be a big shock or a kill.
And Tom McLaughlin tried to go back to this older format for 6, but then they made him add some murders. So
yeah.
And then after
Which, like those extra, like, they have random people and stuff like that. I always get a kick out of that. Like, I'm fine with that if they want to get the extra beats in. But, leave the main cast, I guess, alone for a little while. Get a little bit of tension built up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has, the gang members on this is total filler. I mean, I guess the only reason they're there is to set it up that there ain't no gas anymore.
Yeah.
Really the only reason.
Well, Stingray, you're being quiet tonight. Tell us your thoughts on part 3. Where does part 3 sit for you in the series?
It's definitely up there, man. I don't know. It's one I remember quite a bit from watching on television back when I was a kid, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's I didn't really get to see it in 3D until it came out on DVD, so didn't get to experience it.
No, you've said this for years as well, that the lack of nudity really bothers you. Why? I mean,
come on, what are you gonna do?
What they didn't have in that department, they made up for in Stoner.
I was gonna say, there's more weed.
There's not a weed in this
than any other film. Like, these guys are just.
Yeah, I would just guess that they were afraid of the censors. Just, I guess.
I like how this crew came down for like a night or like a weekend, and they brought enough pot to like smoke for a month.
Yeah.
Oh man,
They've eaten at this point. They've eaten half of it at least.
They're smoking weed like it's going out of style or something.
It's like this was California. What was the law there at the time?
Oh, it was illegal back then.
like 25 years.
when the 2009 film came out, they kept saying, "Oh, this is a combination, a conglomeration of parts 1 through 4." And I'm thinking maybe watching part 3 here that this is where they got all that pot subplot from.
That was like the only part they took from it. They were like, part 3, pot. That's what we'll put in there to represent
There was
part
a
3.
burn, and there was a
hockey match,
fucking pot. Let's get that in there.
Well, yeah, that guy at the beginning of the remake, that character was very Chuck and Chili, that pothead guy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He reminds me of James Rolfe, the video nerd. Every time I see him, I'm just like, it's like he's gotten to the movie somehow.
And it's the first time we see the hockey mask with Shelley wearing. Well, we saw it before, but
let's answer the age-old question about the hockey mask, because a lot of people like to take credit for introducing the hockey mask in this movie. Who really brought the hockey mask to the film? Do we even know? Who's truly the credit?
When I start, Sean, I can give the version I heard, but
that's actually one of the buzz questions that I can't touch right now. That's a fun thing that we've discovered along the way, with digging, and so just want to say that okay, I can't tell you what we said in the doc, but what I can tell you is what Steve Dash said about the part 3 mask, who was Jason number 2. And he said that they had so many problems with the bag mask, with taping it to the eye, because then he had like a scar on his eye because it was flapping, so they had to put like duct tape. So he had like literally a scar he had to have treated at the local hospital. He's like, it was too much of a problem, and that's why they went with the hockey mask in part 3. That's Steve Dash's explanation. Now, as far as what we've discovered, I can't say. I gotta say this.
Well, I don't want to ruin anything in your doc. The only thing I can say that everyone agrees on that I interviewed was that early on, the time the footage of Steve Miner on the TV at the beginning, the news reporter stuff when they're talking about the movie, that was filmed first in like a studio on video. They do agree that they all want to get rid of the bag. They just want something different. They did a makeup test, and that is when the hockey mask was brought in. The controversy is who actually brought the hockey mask as one of the mask options. Because Franklin Gusa Jr. they all agree that the hockey mask was put on and they picked that one. They like that the best. But the 3 or 4 people all claim that they're the ones who brought the hockey mask. So that's the only thing I know for sure. Which actual person brought that mask? But I thought that was a group effort. Everyone kind of, there was other ideas, and ultimately Steve Miner and Franklin had to approve it. So it wasn't like, I don't know. It wasn't just one person's idea. My personal opinion.
And that's honestly, guys, that's another, not just having Steve be a part of this, but to have him on board to really confirm or, he's like really, I think probably the only one guy, since it was his approval decision, like Peter was mentioning there, to go with that could really confirm that for us. So it was, it was a bummer. We really wanted Steve for this. We really did. We wanted his stories, and and seeing with what we're doing with this, it's going to be special regardless. But we really wanted Steve, and that was definitely one of the reasons why as well.
And it's weird because Steve Miner, he's done a few conventions recently, and he talks to fans about the movies, but he won't go on camera. It's just really strange. Well, I don't know.
He'll crack someday.
Yeah.
I like this moment of them showing the picture of Shelley and his mom or something like that, because these movies really, except for a couple of them, I guess, they go out of their way not to have any adults or show any kind of an emotional connection, so that the deaths are more fun rather than tragic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we've talked, I think, about this in other podcasts, but it's a weird thing because if the characters if you like them too much, you don't want to watch Ordinary People and then see everyone beheaded at the end. But if they're too stupid, you don't care at all. So you kind of have to make characters that you like, but you still enjoy what, you know what I mean? That's still fun when they die. It's a really weird kind of tone you have to create.
This is one of my favorites here.
Yeah, it's
because
awesome.
he just saunters out like a fucking cowboy.
Yeah.
And let's be honest here. If they actually thought the hockey mask was going to be iconic, we would have seen him get the mask and put it on rather than just casually walk out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so great about this is you can't plan that. You can't make something iconic. It just has to happen.
They had to cut that scene down a little bit, didn't they? Wasn't it a little more graphic?
This one didn't. The ratings board was much lighter on this one than part 2. So all the death scenes are in here. They're just trimmed by a few seconds here or there. But they didn't. They knew at this point they can't shoot something with tons of gore. So none of them were conceived to be that bloody. So I thought this definitely doesn't feel as cut as part 2, which really suffers.
Oh yeah.
And today this movie's rated PG.
Oh, we're talking about the makeup test. Stan Winston did an early makeup of Jason, and you can only see it in the still of him chopping off her head in the ending that didn't happen.
And there's one still in the book of when he kills Chili, I think, with the poker. There, she has that. It's like a pullover mask. So
I've been back and forth so many times on which makeup I prefer better. To be honest, I don't know.
I like the one in the film, truthfully.
I like the one in the film, I think, too. I think it's just the novelty of knowing there's another one.
I like the one. I think in the scene they ended by the canoe when she's streaming, he looks through the window with the blood. That's creepy. When he pass off, I don't know if the angle, they could have shot that a little better, but whatever.
When he's at the window, that's what I think cemented the whole thing for me. That is such, when he's pawing at the window, that's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, that was messed up.
That's Brooker. Even just there when he saunters away from that kill. He walks in like a cowboy, shoots her, and then he's just just the way he does everything, just the way his arms hang. You're really you're looking at a monster. You're not looking at you know what I mean? He did a great job.
Well, I love this kill here because it's so just mean spirited.
Yeah.
It's just
visceral.
yeah, exactly. I think they answer the question of you came to this movie wanting sex. Well, guess what?
I do think I remember
Whack.
every guy in the theater at this point,
Yeah.
groaning in unison.
Yes.
Is what you
Yeah.
call the clincher.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's funny. Someone in the chat just said, "Did anyone get to interview Scott Bale for his role in this one?"
He did such a great handstand.
Yeah, I know. What I love is that he splits him in half and hangs him up over Havoc, and there's no blood anywhere.
No. It's the goriest thing that's ever happened in one of these movies, but there's no blood.
As
Didn't know
part
that.
Mr. Clean.
Well, this Jason doesn't put someone in a sleeping bag and cook them over a fire like popcorn. So
Yeah. That was brutal.
It was.
Shit was brutal.
So mean.
So what's with all the Buddha statues everywhere in this house?
Yeah.
When you see him later, it's almost like he cut him the other way. Doesn't quite jive, but I love that kill.
Is Tracy Savage still a? She was a reporter for a long time, wasn't she?
I think so. I know I think they're married and he raised her kids. But she did a film, like I think which project it's called The Bone Garden. I think she was in Paul Kraka. They did a thriller kind of thing. So
I just remember during the OJ trial.
Yeah.
They whenever they would mention her, they would mention her quote unquote naked romp in Friday the 13th Part 3.
Not really much.
Wasn't she a child actress or something?
Yeah, her family, her brother was in Salem's Lot. He was one of the vampire kids, and I guess her mother was like a cousin.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not related to the Savage, like Fred or Ben said. It's a different Savage family.
Okay, yeah. But like she did like Little House or something, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never forgot what that thing is there in front of the finger. Is that like a helmet in front of the Fangoria magazine? It's like white. What the hell is that thing?
No idea.
The stormtrooper helmet.
I'm glad you can't notice or smell Jason underneath the hammock right now, but we'll let that slide.
Well, I was going to ask Sean if
It is Fangoria.
during the making of the documentary, did you have any problems with Paramount with anything of sort? Because it seems like sometimes they're okay one day, and then the next day they seem like they stick up their ass or something. So I just wasn't sure if they gave you any problems or if they were cool or you had to, whatever you can say, that if you had to, there were any strife copyright wise or anything of that nature.
Well, so far so good.
Okay.
We're going to do our due diligence on this and do it right. We're, like I said, this is my first endeavor, undertaking a project, like this. So, we're not going to step on anybody's toes here or whatnot. What we're basically doing is going to, we're going to present the rough cut, and we're going to have a couple versions. We're going to have our original version, and then we're going to have a version that, we'll see if we need to present that just as a backup, because we have a really cool, innovative idea for this documentary that will make it different than pretty much any documentary I've ever seen before. So, and we're trying to be new and creative with this. And so we'll see what happens. It's ultimately, what they like or give us a pass on or what have you. They're going to have the final say. It kind of goes back to like the stories that we all heard growing up as kids in the 80s, watching these with our friends. We like maybe skim a Fangoria magazine or what have you, and you'd always hear about the scenes that got cut, and that became a whole nother gold nugget, if you will, of stuff for the fans of these movies growing up in the 80s to always want to check those out and have that, so we'll see. We're trying to get this, we're trying to have this idea. We want it the whole complete thing. We know that certain things get cut along the way, and so we'll see. basically we're at the point of putting it together. Once it's together, we have the rough cut, we present it, and we'll just see what they say and go from there. So that's the plan. So far, we haven't had any troubles. It's been a blessing that way.
Cool.
And we don't anticipate to have any troubles either, because we're gonna do this. Like I say, we're gonna do our due diligence and do it the right way.
Very cool. Excited to see it.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely excited to see it.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, you know, and it's gonna be great fun. You know, we're keeping with that theme as well. You know, we got all the elements. We got the woodsy feel. We got the hockey mask. We got the Manfredini music. But we're also keeping it fun. But there's also a lot of sincere moments in these interviews, and there's also a bunch of lighthearted moments as well, and genuine. There's definitely some sad stuff shared. And then there's a lot of happy moments as well. So it kind of runs the gamut that way, with what we have. I mean, bringing all these things together, I'm excited to show it to you guys. I mean, it's just turned into something that I never expected, honestly.
Awesome.
I think you should include in a limited edition version with a little boot joint holder, like
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
little roach clip.
Little Tommy, what with Chuck bandana, free Chuck bandana with the.
There you go. There you go.
A little bag of weed.
But but back to what you guys were saying about the movie, I think it's, there's another really cool aspect you guys touched on there about this, and that Stan Winston was involved, and his look for Jason in this was pretty cool too. And they ended up using that, and then like Peter said with the ending there, which honestly I think most fans would tend to agree that was the better ending, because it was more original. It's like you've already done the let's hop out of the water kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also that didn't make any sense because she didn't know the backstory. And what's further is, why is her head on her shoulders? Shouldn't it be a headless corpse hopping out of the water?
Yeah, you're right. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that didn't really, make sense.
And those were all the things going through my mind when I was watching it in the theater, and it happened.
So
Wait,
somebody,
what? How? Who?
somebody get Mancuso on the phone. He's got an answer for this. He's got an answer for this.
So by the way, the scene now where Rick and Dana are getting a scene with Abel they're supposed to bump into him on their way, and back. And,
That's Crazy Ralph's cousin, right?
yeah, exactly.
I don't know how they managed to get Mrs. Voorhees' sweater back for Rick.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. And why didn't Jason think, well, there's Mom?
Mommy!
He has the same hair.
He hugs him to death. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they do have the same haircut.
I know.
I mean, it's uncanny, really.
What would give them away is that dimple in the chin.
So that's why.
So he's like, no.
That's why my mom
not
had
for that.
hairs on her arms when her.
Well, he has a similar facial structure to the actor in part 2. Like, it seems like they're trying to kind of, pattern themselves after the couple in part 2 at the end.
Well, especially because they were trying to get Amy Steele up to the last minute, so they cast him first. Dana was the last cast. She was like 2 days or 3 days before, real last minute.
So if they were waiting, like you said, waiting to get Amy Steele at the last second, would they have scrapped this movie and just shot part 5 then as part 3 if they got her?
That's what's confusing is Amy Steele does have a script where Ginny is the lead, different. But so the timeline is a little confusing because if they got Pescu and Paul Kracko was like, oh, well, they're trying to get Amy Steele, then they got Dana at the last minute. It seems like they would have had to have that script for a while, the new one, without Amy Steele's character. So it doesn't all quite mix. I think the timeline is a little off, but I don't know.
So were they thinking to just maybe do a scene with her in the hospital and then go into this story?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was more extensive, and then I think it seems like what they did is the rewrite is, okay, we'll give Chris this backstory, because you could have this character be Amy Steele, and instead of remembering this pseudo rape, she could remember what happened to her back at the camp. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's maybe they rewrote it thinking maybe at the last second we'll still get Amy Steele and we can still make this work with her. I don't know. The problem is I can't. Martin Christopher won't talk about it, so I can't get insight into that.
Yeah.
I bet you Tarantino knows.
All right.
And I had those sneakers. They were awesome.
Oh, yeah. This is where the fun starts.
Yeah, well, I think this has to be the most blustery Friday the 13th movie. I don't think there's any rain in this one, but there's a hell of a lot of wind.
Yeah. 3D. Totally. I'm glad Jason washed his clothes. I guess he's concerned about it.
There's just a lot of labels. I mean, that Band-Aid box just stands straight out. You know?
I mean, you got to be corporate sponsors,
Yeah, Jason's just trying to get laid, man. He's covered up with Dracar Noir and he's just trying to get out there, man.
Now, if there was,
Sup, girl? It's just me and you now.
If there was only a scene where Jason splashed on some Brute, you know what I mean?
Bruce, yeah.
He kind of doesn't remember me look to her at one point.
He does. He's like, hi.
It's me again.
Well, you never forget your first.
Yeah.
I also love how the bodies always pop out just at the right time.
It's true.
He times it.
Yeah.
One thing you guys haven't brought up so far, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised is the VW, the recurring VW bug theme in the series.
Ah.
Yeah.
So what's up with that?
Huh. Maybe it's the same car. They couldn't afford a new one.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
It's Amy Steele. It's Jenny's car. You've got that.
Yeah. You got the convertible,
like
Riggs, and then part 6, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
you're right.
True. Yep.
Huh. Never thought about that. Symbolism.
Somebody likes bugs. It might be.
I think Volkswagen was in bed with Paramount.
Totally.
They were Volkswagen Bugs were the Honda Accord of its day.
Totally.
Yeah. I wonder if Steve was the VW guy. I wonder if that was his doing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I got this up list kind of stuff like the windows are flapping. It's kind of atmospheric in the light of the fireplace light. It's fun. It's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
And Jason has
I thought that original ending was really cool and interesting, and basically you could have seen how that would have worked if, but basically she goes out in the canoe, and drifts off, and then, she has the dream. But basically it would be like a dream within a dream, which would have been cool because, she sees Brooker in the window, doing the thing with the hands and everything. And then she wakes up from that and then walks up to the door where the beheading happens and then wakes up from that. I mean, you're talking about Nightmare on Elm Street stuff before Nightmare on Elm Street would have happened.
Yeah.
Right.
So that would have been cool.
I mean, maybe the way it was shot and the edit didn't work. I don't know. I haven't seen it completed, but it seems cooler than this.
It doesn't seem like a downer ending because she wakes up and you go, oh, it was just a dream.
Right.
Yeah.
Happy ending.
I like that Jason gets knocked down by a couple books.
Reacts to pain when he gets stabbed in the knee.
Reading will kill you.
Maybe he's like a baby. They've got that soft spot in the top of the head. That book hit him right in the spot, and he just.
He's definitely got a soft head.
So where are you guys at right now?
We are.
She's peeking through a door.
Yeah, Dana Kimmel's in the closet. Everybody's dead.
This is one of my favorite sequences where she, comes out of the closet and just slashing that motion, that back and forth with the knife, and then finally gets Brooker in the leg. I really love how they did that.
I like when he runs up to the door when she's looking through it.
Mm-hmm. Here comes The Shining.
The Shinnin. You don't want to get sued.
Wow, HD is sometimes not good for old films. You could tell that was for plastic.
Yeah,
The door's made of cardboard or something.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the flimsiest door ever made.
Oh, that's great. When she comes out just charging him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That'd be there laying on the ground in the closet.
See if that was like part 7, part 8, Jason, he would have just stood there and let her stab him like 5 or 6 times and just been like, "What else you got?"
Oh, good throw.
That's why I like this Jason.
Yeah, this was still when Jason was
Well,
human alive.
yeah.
Kinda, I guess.
yeah. No, this is. I don't know. I always call part 6 the zombie Jason kind of cut off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's one thing about the remake I didn't mind. Some people were upset that he ran around and was more active, but I remember the part 3 Jason, and I could fully see him doing that stuff.
And he runs in part 4.
Yeah, he runs in part 4. Yeah.
I think he pretty much runs until he becomes zombie Jason.
Well,
I guess
and
that's the one they usually associate with him. I guess they don't really associate the younger one.
Hodder played like somebody said it earlier. Hodder kind of played the same Jason in every one of his movies, and that was that slow kind of saunter. That's what 4 movies.
Well, the first Jason that didn't run, that just walked, was Roy.
That's right.
There you go.
Roy was like, "You can run all you want, baby. I'm still going to get you. Just going to walk." Leisurely.
Yeah, and Dick Wien was such a wonderful part of our documentary, and his interview was so great because him and Richard were great friends, and some of the stories he shared were truly heartfelt and wonderful, and just fantastic. And that's another aspect of the documentary that, by virtue of it getting bumped back for whatever reason, we might not have got him. Like that wasn't, like I pitched the idea to him, he had to think about it, and then we ran into some more things, and we were trying to wrap up. But then he reached out to me and said, "Okay, how would we do this?" And I was, and then his interview was just wonderful. But back to what you guys were saying about the walk and whatever with Jason, that thing that you were talking about earlier when he comes out the dock for the first time and has the mask on and he just like shoots her and walks away with that swagger, that he has that nonchalant kind of strut. You don't see that in any other Jason. That's totally Brooker.
Right.
I call that the Brooker swagger right there. That's a Brooker swagger. So.
And we just have something we never see either, which is she charges him with the truck and he dodges her, as opposed to like part 6 when he just stands in the middle of the road when they just go at him full speed.
And he's running and limping at the same time.
Yeah, I think what I like about the early Jason is because he's still a live person. He's still afraid of dying. So there's a different dynamic, and you feel like the heroine can maybe actually kill him. Yeah. Later, once he's a zombie, like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. So it's just a different kind of thing.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah. Like him breaking the glass with his head so he could release himself. That's something that you don't see in later Jasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably his hands would do that.
I remember what cool was to finally see this movie in widescreen, because like you could see the shots where like when Chris goes in the barn now, you see Jason to the right charging, and build, pan, and scan. You didn't get to see a lot of stuff going on.
Well, also what really stood out to me when I was a kid when I saw this was how vocal Brooker's Jason was with getting hurt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the grunts and noises he makes, it's like, that's not common. I think you hear a little bit with Ted White when he gets the machete to the head in part 4.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, there's not a whole lot of vocalization on his part, especially when he becomes zombie Jason. He doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
I don't think he has vocal cords anymore.
Yeah.
He says "mommy" in part 8. That's it.
It's really awkward.
Mommy.
Does anybody care to take a stab and explain the end of part 8 to any of us?
No.
LSD mixed with a few amphetamines.
Their explanation
Yeah,
was
explanation.
that Jason You know what? I'm not even going to try it. I don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's toast.
Well, you know, I mean,
I'm
it's not
trying.
really he becomes a kid again. It's like he's a normal looking kid too. He has hair on his head and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's supposed to be some
Cocaine?
kind of psychic connection between him and Rennie, and
Maybe that was
The
another
whole
one of those cocaine things. Maybe.
yeah, it was definitely drugs. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, clearly.
It was the end of the '80s. And
Yeah.
Wall Street, Gecko, all that stuff.
They were like, how are we going to end this? And the director was like, let me go sniff up some ideas.
Well, the one
Well,
I
I
heard
mean-
was that they were originally going to dissolve him, like completely
Yeah.
in toxic waste, and then they decided, wait a minute, we might want to make another sequel at some point.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's also I never knew that every night in New York, toxic waste flood just goes through the
Well,
slums.
everybody knows that, Randall. Everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I've never been to New York, so
You've never been to
you
Vancouver.
learn something every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's save these stories for our inevitable Friday the 13th Part 8.
Of course.
Oh,
which
yeah,
will
that'd be
coming
fun.
pretty soon.
Of course, we'll get there.
Yeah.
That one will be. How old is that one now? 20. Wait a minute. It was
It was
80.
25th anniversary in 2014.
Yeah. Okay. So we got to wait a few more years for its 30th.
But
Yeah.
that's coming.
2 more years.
We're gonna be there.
Because this year's an off year because the 3rd anniversary of Part 7 is next year. Right? 80.
Let's get it. Let's do it, and let's bring Daryl Haney on the show.
Oh my God! Yes.
hey,
So-
Peter, do you know anything about the truth or rumor behind what was it, Jennifer? Oh man, what was her name? She played the. She kind of disappeared, and I know there's been rumor.
Oh, you're talking about Susan Jennifer Sullivan.
Yeah, Susan Jennifer Sullivan. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all the information we had was that she's deceased, but then people say she isn't. But there's a family member says she is. It's really confusing. I didn't do that much research on it. When I contacted her for the book, she's like, "I'm sorry, I can't do an interview. It's not a good time." So after that, I didn't do any follow-ups personally. So everything I've been doing is reading on the internet like everyone else. So it seemed like there's this conflicting story going on. So I honestly don't know for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope she's all right. She was definitely
Fun. Yeah.
yeah. She was a character that definitely
Yes.
nailed her part.
Yeah.
Well, scabbyhorror.blogspot says Susan Jennifer Sullivan is not dead, and this is a recent article. So
Was there anybody from Part 3 that you wanted to interview for the book, Peter, but they were unavailable or didn't want it? Besides the woman that we talked about before.
It was really the screenwriter would have been great, and at least I got Patrick. He wrote it, but Mark Kushak, that would be cool, and then Rachel Howard. Those are the only ones. Oh, I did get in touch with Andy Jeffrey Rogers. He's a doctor now, and he said yes, and we went back and forth email, and then he had something happen, and by the time the deadline came around, he wasn't available. So that would have been cool, but he did say yes originally. I guess Sam Winston said no to me. So he didn't want to talk about his work. So
Yeah. A lot of people are just very reserved,
Yeah.
or they're just not
He just-
talking about it.
yeah, he just said, talk to Doug Weiss. Like I did very little. He was super busy. He's Sam Winston, Oscar winner. He was doing direct Lost World. I don't remember what he was doing at the time. So I understand some, write some about Friday the 13th, which he worked on.
well, he took those concepts and put it in Wrong Turn.
Oh, yeah. So he kind of. He's like, oh no. He was a real nice note. He's like, oh, good luck. I just don't have, I don't have too much to say.
You psycho.
I know.
Why did you even try?
Yeah.
I queue up for like 15 minutes now.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my time, Valley.
He was just sleeping for a while. I don't know what he did.
So
He's
where
really
are you guys?
pissed at him.
Where are you guys at now?
Dana
Axe
just
in the
put
face.
the axe into Jason's head.
After Nick Savage wakes up.
I gotta say, I always felt bad for that biker guy because he went through all that stuff. He wakes back up, he saves the day, and then he gets his ass butchered immediately. And then later on, we see him in Fright Night as a bouncer.
That's right.
That's true. Yeah, it's true.
Well, I gotta say, hats off to Dana's character. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, she kicks
Yeah.
Jason's ass the most out of any female lead. I mean, he gets his share of damage from, but just my personal humble opinion, I think that she really takes it to him, and and then has the thing on the pond there. But that
Lake is so crystal.
I
It really
saw
lives
that
up to its
thinking,
name.
what's that?
This lake is so crystal clear. It really lives up to its name.
Yeah.
Crystal.
Can you tell that lake goes out to New York?
Yeah.
Well, people criticize the acting in the movie, some of the acting, but I do think Dana at the end, she really does come through and she's believable.
Well, and that's the thing though, is as far as the acting, people want to be critical of these movies with the acting, and I don't know. I think they're on two separate planes here because I remember when I was a kid, Siskel and Ebert used to really just ream these movies, and I'm like, okay, this isn't trying to be like like an Oscar thing. This is for fun. It's not about like making the prestigious Academy Awards. It's just people go to the cinema for fun too, not just to be taken on a really dramatic journey or whatever. It's also about escapism.
Yeah. But if it's Halloween, they'll love it.
Yeah. Oh, I love the moment when she puts the axe in his head, because then when he keeps going and she's like, no, like she can't believe it. And in so many of the Friday the 13th movies, people, when they attack Jason and he keeps coming, it's almost like they expect him to keep coming. And this girl's like surprised that he's not going down, and she's actually shocked by that.
Right.
And that's something that's new and different that's not in the other films.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
I always thought that was creepy how he is clawing at the window like a huge
awesome.
animal,
Yeah.
That always freaked me out. That whole, like I said, I can't tell which face.
Yeah.
When you go back and look at the other ones, initially when I saw those extra shots, I was like, that looks way better. But there's something about this one that just
Yeah.
Well, if
As
nothing
we're
else,
as
the
we're
movie-
winding, go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I said if nothing else, the movie's bookended by a really funky disco theme. So it's just about it's all about the fun, It's
There you go.
It's bookended by this quirky, weird, fun, funky song.
And there's Mrs. Voorhees.
Got her head back.
Got her head back. Yep.
So did they finally just, like you said, they shot 3 endings? Did they finally just kind of give up and say, okay, let's just go back to the first movie ending again, and just because they thought?
So, what was the third ending?
Well, the original
You
ending,
mentioned-
I don't know how much they filmed. It's in the novelization. She is asleep when she dreams she goes into the barn, and she finds all the bodies and cuts Jason's head off with a sickle. It's in the original. There's 2 novelizations,
okay.
and I don't think they shot all that. Or later turns out they said part of it and decided no, it's not going to work. And then they fully filmed the Paul Kraka chopping head off ending, and then they still didn't like it. And Fragment was just like wants water, and there's some connections with the first movie, but again, it doesn't make sense. So.
Well, as we're winding down our live commentary for Friday the 13th, Part 3, if anybody out there watching has any questions for us or for Mr. Bracke or Mr. Richards, go ahead and leave those in the comment section of the video or tweet them to us at TSF Nation on Twitter. That link is in the description. Let's do some speculation here. What do you guys think happened to Chris after the events of Part 3?
Mental institution, then she became like a
Insane
counselor.
asylum.
I could see her doing a Heather Langen camp in Dream Warriors kind of thing, where she went to be a counselor for other, abused attack women or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Peter 100%. That he took the words out of my mouth. She got help for this, and she went on to help other people that went through similar traumatic situations. Maybe not to this degree, but just trauma in general. I mean, I worked in the psych field for about 6 years, so there are many of different aspects you could use therapy and helping people and going through something like this and sharing that and helping people mend. So yeah, what Peter said.
Yeah, totally. No.
So,
Maybe she counseled, Trish from part 4.
yeah. Tina from part 7. She gets taken away by an ambulance at the end.
There you go. Yeah.
Too bad they didn't get it back for part 5. She could have been the Melanie Kinnaman character.
There you go.
Yeah.
That'd been cool. Well, that wraps up Friday the 13th, Part 3, our 35th anniversary live commentary for the movie. 35 years of Friday the 13th, Part 3. I've probably seen it 35 times. But it's this disco music. I just can't stop listening to this disco music.
So true.
I mean, if only I had some blow.
Yeah.
All right, let's
you
see your
don't.
disco moves there, Justin.
No, everybody would run away. Let's see what's going on out in the comments section. Got a lot of old faces and a lot of new faces out there watching tonight's show. Canius the V, thanks for tuning in tonight. Elf Lover 04, thank you for tuning in tonight. Tensa Zangsu 59 is giving us a round of applause. See if we've got any questions. The Cartoon Man 13, how are you, buddy? Thanks for tuning in tonight. Holiday Style says rapist Jason is creepy. True.
Yes, boy.
Lively conversation in the live chat tonight. Don't see many questions though, but that's fine. I think we covered all the bases pretty much in the in our before we started the commentary anyway.
Is there a possibility, Peter, that we will ever see a Friday the 13th movie with some recurring cast members? Are they trying to work that in at all, or are they trying to make another standalone?
I don't think anymore. Yeah, I think they feel like because these movies, it's been so long, new fans wouldn't know who they. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like Halloween where everyone knows Gene. And then the characters people remember, like Kevin Bacon, are dead. So yeah, I've never heard anything like that. It's more fan. I've heard like people wanting to do that, like Tommy comes back, or it's always the fans that want to do it, but.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. Somebody named Orc says, I'm new. Well, we don't want you here, so you leave. We don't leave.
How many times do we have to fire him?
You're fired.
You're fired.
Let's see.
A pretty dank comment, though.
It is a pretty dank comment. That's true.
Feels good, man.
Elf Lover 04 says she enjoyed the trivia and remembering Richard Brooker, R.I.P. Canius the V says R.I.P. Richard Brooker. Book and movie for Crystal Lake Memories are fantastic. So some love for both the documentary and the book, Crystal Lake Memories. So yeah. Well, final thoughts on Friday the 13th. Part 3 as we wrap up our 35th anniversary live commentary. Final thoughts, Sean?
Well, I want to thank you guys for having me come aboard tonight and talk about watching Part 3 with you and vicariously through you. But yeah, it's it's a great entry in the series. It's pivotal. It changes the direction, changes the character, and it's just got a lot of fun stuff. It's a fun movie. It's totally fun. And I'm really want to thank you guys for sharing that with you tonight.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure.
It's awesome.
I know we're all looking forward to the documentary. What was that Facebook again, so we can get everybody over to liking the Facebook page?
Sure. It's facebook.com/remembering Brooker.
So go make sure you like the official Friday the 13th Part 3 documentary page for all updates about that documentary. Make sure you're following the Sausage Factory as well on social media, because we'll definitely keep you guys updated about that as well. So, Peter Bracke, final thoughts, Friday the 13th Part 3.
Yeah, no, I think, it's first one with the hockey mask, Jason. I think it's, it's one of the best ones. It's one of the, probably the original canon of the first 4 movies. So yeah, I have a huge, like we were saying, I remember seeing the theater. It's just really great nostalgia, great memories of that. I can't believe it's been 35 years. So yeah, it's just.
So if you saw that movie when you were 11 and it's been 35 years.
I am 26.
26 years old. You just turned 26.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know. It's great. I mean,
where would you rank Part 3 in the Friday the 13th pantheon?
I'm partial to the first 4 because it's the real Jason. He's a real person. I can enjoy parts of the other ones, but that's like sort of the core. I was the right age for him. So different days I have different favorites. So I would definitely put it in the top 2 or 3 personally for me, especially in 3D. In 3D, it's definitely it kind of because some of the parts are kind of dull and silly in 2D, but in 3D, it's of all the Freddy movies, it's probably one of the most fun to see in the theater. In 3D, like you have one of the best theatrical experiences of any of them, I think. So yeah. So it definitely cemented. It maybe I would never have done it was what cemented my love for the series. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Raho, I know you're a big Friday the 13th 3 fan. Final thoughts on the film?
I just I know that Jason, of course, made his appearance in the previous film and previous 2 films, but this is where the icon kind of got built. Not just the mask. There's more to it than that. Richard Brooker's portrayal of the character. I feel like they all kind of took it from there. It's very different in Part 2. Jason's a completely different kind of beast, but he really kind of cemented the image of Jason from this point forward. So I think you have to give it to this movie to kind of just that image of Jason going forward and all the rest of the films.
Mm-hmm. If only they had trademarked the hockey mask image, that would be that would have been a rich person today.
Yeah,
very rich person. Mike, I know you're a big fan of Friday the 13th Part 3. Your final thoughts on the film?
It's always been a nostalgia favorite. Like I said, Jason's awesome in the film. I love the kills. I usually rate the films 1, 2, 3, 4. I like Peter. I like the first 4 the most, and I do like some of the later installments, but it's just not the same quality to me. But then my moods can change sometimes. Sometimes it's like 3, 4, 2, 1. But most of the time, I like even though the storyline is very all over the place, and the timeline is weird, and it's supposed to be the next day, and he goes from little to big and bald, and I don't know, I still like the flow from 1 to 4, even though there are a few, spaces where it could have been a little, better thought out. But I don't know, I enjoy 3. It seems to me to be the most fun. Although Part 4 is fun, but 3 to me was the most fun for me.
Oh, we got shot.
Rambo, Stingray, Cameron, final thoughts on Friday 3?
You can go ahead, Cameron.
I was going to say, you're hearing everybody say this, a lot of the same things, fun, fun, fun. And that's something that a lot of horror movies today aren't. They're not fun. I mean, this movie has, like you said, it's got a slow buildup, but then you get the full payoff. It has likable characters. It has quotable lines. It has iconic imagery. it's such a pleasure to see. Back when horror movies were about just kind of the communal experience and being fun, and not just about how hardcore and vicious and brutal we can kill everybody, including the main person, and then leave us just depressed. I mean, Piz and I have talked about many times how the remake of Friday the 13th, or the 2009 film, is so well made, and it's so pretty to look at, and the kills are really good, but it's not fun. And so you don't go back and rewatch it as often as you do. Like Jason Takes Manhattan, I don't think that's a good movie, but I've seen that more because it's a little bit more fun, and I think that Friday the 13th Part 3, like you said, the first four, it's almost like you can compartmentalize the films and say 1 through 4 is one series, 5 it's its own thing, and then 6 through whatever is another thing. But I think 3 is it's just a great time at the movies, and I haven't seen it in a while, and but definitely, if you can ever anybody get a chance to see it in 3D, do it, because it will improve it like tenfold.
Yeah, bucket list.
Yeah, same here, definitely. Stingray, Rambo, closing thoughts. You guys got anything to add?
First time I saw this was the Dust to Dawn Friday 13th Marathon from Joe Bob Briggs' Monster Vision from back in the day. So that's how I first saw a lot of these. And it's a fun movie. I'm actually one of the odd men out where my favorites are more the later ones. The very first one I saw was Jason Goes to Hell, and that's actually my favorite. Then Part 7 and 6. So I would put this lower down the list, but Friday 13th is one of those series that I can watch any of them, even Part 8 for all the insanity. But it's one of those that none of them I really hate, because they're simple, they're straightforward. Pretentious is the opposite part of the spectrum for these movies, and a lot of times people talk about how similar these films are, but a lot of them are really different when you really look at it. I mean, and considering how many films they made, even like Friday the 13th, the remake, it for whether people liked it or not, it did try to be different than whether it's tone or feel than, say, Part 3, which was very different from Part 5. And that's one of the things that I like about the series. So, and Part 3, I mean, everyone has said anything that I could say, so I couldn't really improve on it. But yeah, it's just one of those series that I'm always interested to see what happens next, because there really hasn't been one that I truly hated, although Part 8 is one I should. But yeah, Part 3, very solid entry in the series.
What do you think, Stingray?
Guys, what can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? Larry Zerner in a wetsuit, I think, is worth the price of admission right there.
I agree.
No, I just have a great time with this film. A lot of the time I was just muted, kind of just having a good time watching it, listening to you guys talk. But, yeah, it's a great one. Lots of fun. The plot holes and stuff you guys mentioned, like, none of that stuff bothers me at all, just because, I mean, the subject matter in general is kind of ridiculous. I mean, you can't really get to, starting to point out, what's what in there. But, yeah, I love it. Great film, lots of fun. And always fun to watch it, and I'm glad to watch it with you guys. I learned a lot tonight.
Well, I noticed that right around the part where Zerner came out of the lake in the wetsuit, your camera went off.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's just coincidence. That's coincidence.
Okay. I'll believe that. I'll believe that.
And about next month, we will hear from Jay about our Larry Zerner documentary coming out soon.
I do want to make the announcement right now. We are fan funding the April Fool's Day documentary. It is a Peter Bracke.
I want to be a part of it.
It's a Peter Bracke joint. We're fan funding it, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be all about April Fool's Day, the legacy of that movie. This has to happen. It has to happen.
We're talking about the remake, right?
Absolutely.
The one that looks like a daytime soap opera. That one.
Yeah, I've got Scout Kaler Compton booked for an interview. So
Hey, I once asked Stan,
Man, it's a party.
I once asked Scout, I said, what happened with the April Fool's Day remake? She rolled her eyes and she said, don't even ask. That movie was a horrible experience.
she did 2 Rob Zombie Halloween movies,
Yeah.
and that movie was a horrible experience.
So I apologize. I actually have to leave in 1 minute right at 9 o'clock my time.
Let's
Thank you guys as always. It's so awesome.
Absolutely.
It is.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for joining us again, Peter. You're always an amazing guest. We love having you. You're awesome. Like I said, I really mean it when I say that you're the 5th member of the team. You know what I mean? And I know everybody who watches the show, they whenever I say that I announce that you're going to be on a Friday the 13th show, everybody gets really excited.
Cool.
So
I wish it was a Friday every Friday. Every Friday.
yeah, there you go. There you go.
No, it's always a pleasure, so I look forward to it. So.
Yeah. And huge thanks to Sean Richards for joining us as well. I know we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, but they seemed to work their way out, and we had a great appearance. And everybody, keep your eyes peeled for the Friday the 13th 3 documentary. Go over to that Facebook page, facebook.com. Remembering Brooker, is that right?
Yep, /Remembering Brooker.
/Remembering Brooker for all updates about that documentary. I think we're off next week, but we're going to be back the week after. So huge thanks to everybody who tuned in tonight. All the new people that I saw out in the chat, thanks for joining us. All the old people I saw out in the chat, thanks for your continued support of the Sausage Factory. If you're not following us on social media, those links are in the description. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Have a great Friday the 13th. Take care.
Yep. Happy Friday the 13th, guys.
Yep.
Thank you. You
Have a
too.
good night.